From the mind of Otto Kronsberg comes a horrific and all-new tale of the unknown.
Pa, what's that in the sky?
Ain't nothing, Bobby. Ain't nothing but a shooting star. People of planet Earth, we come in force.
The Men from the Red Planet in theaters November 22nd.
You ever think we're alone out there? Like, in this dark forest that is our universe, there's countless species and civilizations that have risen and fallen to the challenges thrown at them. I mean, think about it. We've been building our society for well over 10,000 years. Surely some other planet out there has everything down and attuned to whoever calls it home. They're out there, somewhere, and it's up to us to find them. Are you ready for a journey to the stars? Then join me tonight on this episode of We're Not Alone. Objects from space and tales of the unknown. Hey, guys, why do we write this to sound like a podcast?
The story will continue after this.
UFOs, or Unidentified Flying Objects, are, as the name suggests, unidentified flying objects. They can range from stuff like the unexplained glowing orb in the sky above your house right now, to aircraft that are definitely not part of government surveillance programs from whatever country you don't like. And they are the target of focus for the subculture we're looking at. UFO hunters are the people who document and explicitly search for UFOs, as well as the existence of extraterrestrial life. Sort of like the cryptid hunters from the last episode. And some people do like to lump both the ufology and cryptozoology subcultures into the latter, more for the reason that there is no hard evidence of aliens existing, and that both groups are seen as equally crazy. UFO hunters, and a few other subgroups that are UFO subculture, do seem more like the go-tos in the media whenever you need a person deemed insane. But they are normal people, who just want to experience the extraordinary. So how did we get these people in our modern world, and why do we see them all as crackpots with a good taste in tinfoil fashion? The first case of a UFO sighting goes all the way back to ancient Sudan, where an Egyptian pharaoh Thutmose III had sighted
A star coming down and setting fire to adversaries.
during a battle against the Nubians. Aside from the common theory that aliens helped build the pyramids 1,000 years before this encounter, nothing else much would happen in Egypt relating to UFOs for a long while. It wouldn't be until the Roman Empire that more sightings were reported. Phantom ships, a falling moon, a flame-like wine jar, even an army of chariots in the sky over Roman Judea. After that, not much came about during the medieval era. Sightings were reported on and off through the 17th century, before coming back into full swing in the 19th. In 1803, the first sighting in close to 200 years was reported in the Hitachi province of Japan. More sightings would appear in North America in the 1890s. Dubbed mystery airships, these would be categorized by landings, sightings, and even close encounters with aliens by Americans from 1896 through the early 1900s. Around the same time, thanks in part to people like American writer Charles Fort, the field of anomalistics began to take off. Now, if Fort sounds familiar, it's because he was also in the cryptozoology video and is a great influence on many fields deemed pseudoscience. Fortean phenomena range from UFOs to abductions, even to the idea that we may not be alone out there. But enough about a very influential man. Let's see some aliens, damn it. In the 1930s, we would begin to see something that isn't aliens. Yeah, we added this in post. Aliens afterwards, okay? American mining engineer Guy Ballard, along with his wife Edna, founded the religious movement I Am Activity, a group which believes in beings called the Ascended Masters. Now, how does this tie into aliens? Well, according to J. Gordon Melton, the I Am group is associated with aliens due to the similarities between Ascended Masters and Cosmic Masters, a term from a religion we will cover later. being that both are all-knowing beings who provided guidance to the early members of the religion after coming to them from the stars. Now, this is a bit out of this world, I know. So let's see what's going on back on terra firma during the 1940s. During the Second World War, we would see a rise in the reports of aliens. Whether it was just to cover up military technology, mass hysteria, or even actual aliens remains to be seen. In 1942, over the dark skies of Los Angeles, an unidentified object was reported by radar systems, and well over 1,000 shells were fired into the air over the course of an hour. 15 aircraft are fired upon, with reports varying on what all was shot down. Well over 2,000 miles away, on a completely different front, other mystery aircraft were sighted by pilots of both sides in both theaters. More appearing over the skies of Europe, with less cases coming from the Pacific. These Foo Fighters, as they were dubbed, were lights that appeared in the night sky, considered to be fireballs flying in formation much like military aircraft. Reports of these fighters ranged from 1942 until the end of the war, but something else would take to the night sky in post-war Europe. In Sweden, parts of Finland, and Greece, military and civilian reports came in of well over 2,000 ghost rockets from February through the rest of the year falling from the sky. Authorities from these nations, along with the UK and US, hypothesized various things from meteor showers to missile testings of the UK and Soviet Union, only not to have all the incidents accounted for. Greek findings, reported in 1947, further confirmed that many of these were not missiles. Any further research was halted by the US government for the reason of disclosing superior technology that they had no possibility of defense against. But the most influential sighting was yet to come. In June of 1947, American pilot Kenneth Arnold was making a flight between Chehalis and Yakima, Washington, with a very slight detour near Mount Rainier to get a reward for finding a missing Marine Corps transport plane. It would be on this detour that he discovered something else. From the north, Arnold saw several flying discs moving at supersonic speeds, greater than those of the fastest planes at the time. What he saw may have been extraterrestrial, and it never was confirmed if they were actual UFOs or indeed military aircraft. Over the next month, hundreds of cases of UFOs were reported across the US and Canada. Whether it be paranoia, hysteria, or some combination of factors, the only thing that could be true were concerns about aliens. Around the same time, thousands of miles south of Washington, in a little town in New Mexico, one incident would stay with popular culture. On a ranch outside of Corona, the owner, Mac Brazel, merely pushed the debris of random materials under some brush to dispose of later and went into town. While it did become part of the initial UFO craze in 1947, Roswell would be all but forgotten until the 1970s. Until then, stories of aliens would appear across the country, much like the ranch at Corona. Sadly for this one, the US government has declared since 1994 that the debris that came from Roswell was a weather balloon, a part of the spying operation known as Project Mogul. But at least Roswell has held a spot in the zeitgeist for UFO enthusiasts the world over. It wouldn't be till the decade of rock and paranoia about your communist neighbors that we would see the actual birth of the ufology subculture. A growth in the reporting of alien sightings combined with Cold War paranoia led to many throughout the US and the world over to report strange flying objects just beyond their reach. In 1956, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena was founded, an organization that, along with the APRO, were dead set on proving that aliens exist. And, spoiler alert, both groups would become defunct in the 80s. Culture at the time, more in the US, grew a bit more enamored with these little dudes from beyond the stars, with sightings at the time mirroring those in the last decade, just with less frequency and media coverage. Creatives at the time also began to talk more of aliens in a lot of works, be it the classic B-movie that needed an analogy for communism, or the various sci-fi writers, from Bradbury to Asimov, wanting to explore worlds alien, yet familiar to our own. It would be in this decade where we also saw the formation of more religious groups around aliens. Historians cite George King's 1955 group, the Atheist Society, as one of the first UFO religions after a loud voice claiming to be from the Interplanetary Parliament enlightened him in a way similar to the Ballards. However, a larger group did come into being at the hands of a sci-fi writer in the same decade. But that's less UFOs and more theology, so let's get back to those aliens. We could go on of specific and influential alien cases, but let's gloss over a large part of them to get to the only reason the love of aliens has grown in popularity: pop culture. Throughout the latter half of the 20th century, a lot of media was made depicting aliens, be it fun kids films where the little guy just wanted product placement, some close encounters with spacefarers, 70s horror flicks in outer space, even back to the 50s B-movie with whatever they wanted to grab from the prop department to call an alien. It can even be argued that popular media helped grow the field of ufology and its various groups associated with it more than any stories of close encounters or reported sightings. From the 1950s onward, we can see communities and societies forming over the search for life in the stars. And not just for religion. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence was only getting started in the scientific world, with the first of many search for extraterrestrial intelligence organizations being set up at Ohio State in 1955. These guys are more known for the 1977 WOW signal, something too scientific for me to describe outside it was caused by an intense signal and intercepted by the Big Ear radio telescope. Other groups would join in this as well, ranging from the Soviets to NASA's own Project Cyclops, all to actively find other civilizations. And if my cringy high school Cold War fanfictions are anything to go by, the Russians needed alien help to nuke the other side because the world didn't want to ship Honecker and Brezhnev. In 1984, with funding from private individuals including Carl Sagan, the SETI Institute was born. Like a lot of its contemporaries, it is considered more part of research organizations who chart the stars looking for signs of life. However, they, as well as other SETI organizations, try not to associate with the rest of the ufology subculture. Something about pseudoscience and Fortean thought, last I heard from them. Through the last 2 decades of the 20th century, public attention with UFOs shifted more towards popular culture and less so to do with sightings. That being said, there were still sightings like the Night of UFOs in Brazil, the Oakley Moore incident, and Phoenix Lights. We would maintain this trajectory of sporadic, large-scale UFO sightings the world over for the next 20 years, with more media showing aliens as fascinating creatures through shows like The X-Files and Men in Black.
Same nights. Charles Summerby describes what he saw in the skies.
No sound, there was no veering, it was a straight course, and halfway out over the bay, and so I've never seen anything like that. There were portholes. We saw portholes of light coming out of the portholes.
The man who took these pictures insists on remaining anonymous, so we'll call him Jim.
In the 2000s, there still existed a continued search for aliens from various institutions. For while the original theories about UFO sightings were based more off of Cold War paranoia, the UFO culture of the past 2 decades has been more carried by the status of aliens in popular culture and continued fervor of sightings, abductions, and research built on the efforts of the last 50 years. UFO hunters, researchers, and believers have searched the skies for these little beings. Only now does it seem we get closer and closer to discovering them. While incidents have become few and far between in the last decade, their impact seems to get stronger. 2 cases from the 2010s in the US and UK had larger government interactions, with one being over the USS Theodore Roosevelt, and the other involving British military aircraft pursuing the unidentified object. A more notable recent incident in UFO history comes from a meme rather than the search for beings out there. In mid-2019, Facebook user and shitpost moderator Maddie Roberts created an event just for a laugh, rating Area 51. Now, if I haven't mentioned it before, Area 51, officially Homey Airport, a detachment of Edwards AFB, is a popular topic in the UFO community thanks to the classified aircraft research that is undertaken at the base since the 50s, with the nearby town of Rachel even having UFO-themed attractions for this mecca of ufologists and UFO enthusiasts. As for the raid, it turned into 2 music festivals and garnered media attention for the 1,500 who showed up to get as close to the base as they could. Outside of this, meme culture has been well aware of outer space and its potential inhabitants' existence, leading to such notable memes as Giorgio Tsoukalos' Aliens, from History Channel's Ancient Aliens, A. Lamau and its Dancing Green Lad, even whatever this is. It's more of an echo of extraterrestrial influence on popular culture, but meme culture has a certain filter to it compared to everything else. On a more serious note to memes, there have been a few government publications in recent years talking about UFOs. Pentagon officials published a report on UFOs from 2022 earlier last year, along with beginning operation of unidentified aerial phenomena research via NASA, although France has been doing all this since the late 70s, both of which do get the ufology community to hope more and more that their work will be taken as a science. For well over a century they have done what governments are now working on and only want to be taken seriously for such efforts. So, very late in the writing this, it seems Mexico has 2 alien corpses that were laying around somewhere. Luckily they were just a hoax and made meme culture happy for a little while. So from the hippies to the men in the suits, even back to seemingly common people, it seems everyone is looking to the skies. But who exactly are these people? Luckily, we have a few categories for people who believe aliens exist. We also have figures from a small handful of surveys, so let's start with those. The first one is more a blanket term, applying to anyone who is sure to any degree that aliens are out there. The believers can be roughly summed up as anyone who has actively expressed the hypothesis that there is intelligent life out there in the universe. Be it microorganisms in moon ice, to cyborg hive minds that only want Jonathan Frakes. According to Pew Research, 65% of American adults surveyed said they did believe aliens existed somewhere out there. If we transfer the math to a country of 332 million, it comes to 215 million. But we're gonna throw skeptics in there and say an estimate of 200 million Americans would believe to some degree that aliens exist. Add to this, and even 50% of surveyed Brits from 2021, again minus the skeptics, and you would get at least 225 million believers on a baseline level in just 2 countries. As for the rest of the world, we couldn't find any information regarding this. It is safe to say that there's a sizable amount of several organizations that have popped up throughout the European Union and former Soviet Union to see if aliens are out there. It could even be said that the number will only grow in our advancements in space travel. Sort of an alien hype train like back in 2019. Ranging from people actively looking for the existence of aliens, to privately funded organizations following the example of SETI groups. Alien hunters are just as the name implies, and are the ufology part of the UFO subculture. Whether it be in the field or in some room with a bunch of computers, alien hunters are looking for extraterrestrial life out there. They can be categorized into 2 smaller divisions, those who are searching for intelligent extraterrestrial life, your SETI groups, and those who are looking for aliens both in the stars and on Earth. If both those categories sound the same to you, you're not alone. While private ufology groups do sound like the more scientific SETI ones, they differ in their status and recognition of being a field of science. SETI groups are more linked to biology, astronomy, and a lot more than just aliens, despite the acronymic name. Private ufology groups would rather search for and gather evidence of alien interaction on Earth with its peoples, rather than explore the stars looking for cool exoplanets that could harbor life. It should be noted that groups like the SETI Institute, those on various reality TV programs, and Tom DeLonge's To the Stars group are a more public face of the search for aliens. Alongside them are various individuals and teams in the UFO contact movement, a collective term for the other unmentioned groups that have popped up the world over. However, there is a divide between SETI groups and independent ufology groups, with the latter claiming the former is helping legitimize ufology as a field and want to be involved with its continued growth, while the former don't want to touch the pseudoscientific documents covered in green goo that every ufologist has on hand.
You could make a religion out of this.
Ranging from large groups like Scientology to Heaven's Gate, Realism, even the Nation of Islam and the Falun Gong movement. Para-ufology is a form of New Age religion that makes up a fraction of the UFO subculture. It can even be argued that Mormonism is a UFO religion, based more on the fact that the origins of humanity have some extraterrestrial connotations. But that'll need more research on my end. Even with a smaller fraction of UFO believers worshipping spacefarers and their crafts, the religious side is still a cornerstone of the UFO-related subculture. Where we get into the reason why there are religions based off of things from space is actually more grounded in reality. Well, theology, more or less. Over the course of human history, religion usually shows there is a being out there, much like angels in the New Testament God in Christianity, of pure benevolence and at a point of technological and psychological superiority akin to godhood. So most UFO religions will believe that aliens themselves are these celestial beings who only seek to help mankind out and expand into the stars. Something that has been seen in science fiction works like... Guys, I'm gonna need help. I'm blanking on this one. I only have that oppressive sci-fi with aliens killing people and all that. Can you just show them on the screen? Thank you. There's a lot more behind this, so I'm just gonna stop here. UFO religions deserve a video of their own at this point. So aside from the hunters and UFO preachers, why do people seem to fit greatly into the ufology subculture? Like that iconic poster says, I want to believe. It's one of the big draws of the ufology subculture. Aliens might be out there, they might have visited us, we just don't have concrete evidence yet because people keep covering it up or classifying it for decades on end. So this is where ufology and a lot of contact movements come forth with witnesses, abductees, and even a few artifacts that possibly belong to spacefaring beings. This is the longer existing aspect of the UFO subculture, being around even before the scares of the 50s and the establishment of Fortean thought in the early 20th century. It also leads into members of the ufology community wanting to disprove the claims of their work as pseudoscience, just because of its Fortean roots. However, it seems the pseudoscience may stick around thanks to one organization. The Library of Congress has dubbed UFOs and alien hunting part of contemporary American folklore, and this skirts a bit back towards cryptid territory for obvious reasons, with American culture being more tied to spacefaring beings than the other countries who have flags on the moon. But UFOs seem to have seeped more into America's cultural psyche than the rest of the world, with larger references to aliens in contemporary culture compared to everywhere else, and a disproportionate amount of sightings over the past century. But the symbolic anthropologist in me would rather just let you know it's people giving meaning to something they don't understand. Much like our dear friends in the cryptozoology community, or any other group of people influenced by Charles Fort, ufology is currently considered a pseudoscience. This is understandable, as any claimed existence of aliens has only led to hoax after hoax at the hands of people who want to make the community look worse while wanting the field to be taken seriously. Evidence of a vast majority of UFO sightings has been the classification of covert military technology. Roswell was a spy balloon, the ghost rockets were deemed to be tests by various nations on missile technology, and countless lights in the sky have been marked as high-altitude aircraft. Of course, this doesn't explain every sighting ever. A few of the historical sightings have been looked into as hoaxes, others explained as weather phenomena, and then a few others with no explanation whatsoever. Culturally, it would be better said as meaning given to something unknown, with that being the go-to for humanity and mythology for the past existence of the human race. People trying to explain secret military craft and astronomical phenomena without the scientific application of Occam's razor. But if we are looking into stuff not associated with science from a scientific viewpoint, we have to remember. As someone who has only played a few hours of Stellaris, I can see the skepticism that comes with aliens actually existing and wanting to coexist peacefully. From personal concerns that lap well into the scientific community, if aliens do exist, there are two theories that could only help further my own, and maybe a few of you at home's, fears. The first is more concerned with us actually being alone in the universe, the classic Fermi paradox. While at lunch with colleagues during the summer of 1950, Italian physicist Enrico Fermi questioned, "Where are they then?" Something which has been researched by those in the fields connected to extraterrestrial studies. It even has some equations associated with it. But since we're not Kurzgesagt, here's a link. Now, if this paradox is true on the end of we're alone out there, then ufology is a science of hoaxes, hysteria, and hack writing at the hands of the world's showrunners. One that is like shouting into a void and expecting, even faintly, a cry back in one form or another in our pointless search for life in space. But there are dangers to this. Wait, what's with the live music? I thought we said no live music! They might hear us. A hypothesis from the title of the second book of the early 2000s Chinese book series, The Free Body Problem, by writer Liu Cixin. The hypothesis would be as follows. Imagine you are in a dark forest. The time of year and day doesn't matter. All that does is you're alone and without any supplies. Over time you gather food, build some tools, and find the remains of many things left behind by others who came before you. The problem is that while you may fear you are alone and lost in the woods, it is much worse. Somewhere out there, among the trees, hidden by distance and dark, someone is fighting for survival like you are. Every now and then you shout, hoping there is someone else out there for you to join with. But it more or less will only prove your end. For you see, according to the hypothesis, the only reason we have not encountered alien life is because they are hiding from something that could end their civilization. And us shouting into the unknown will only draw the danger our way. Now, it seems more obvious that one shouldn't go through a dark forest playing Karma Danse on full blast and looking for friends like it's a Rust lobby. Like I've said before, I've played way too much Stellaris to know that if there are aliens out there, they're all probably min-maxing numbers and serving alien species like it's an episode of The Twilight Zone. What do you mean Stellaris isn't a viable source? I played 50 hours just for this episode alone. That's it. Get Barry on the phone. I'll be in my car eating Mars bars and listening to Radiohead. With that, dear viewer, we reach the end of this interstellar expedition of a group of people who only want to believe life is out there. Be it the fans of little green men in their tinfoil hats, the full-blown organizations worshipping extraterrestrials, even the people who sit outside on a cool summer night and wonder if we truly are alone in this universe. The ufology community, more than meets the eye based off of what we were looking at when our research of them started. Be it pseudoscience or not, all that matters to them is that life is out there, and may eventually greet us with open arms. Or less hopefully, armed.
Captain, we've detected something outside the proton sphere. Whatever it is, it just breached the atmosphere. It's almost like Earth is.
It's just a meteor shower, Private. There's nothing to worry about. Sir, we're under attack. Something landed on the airfield. It might be the Russians. It might be the Chinese. I just know I shot up.
People of Earth, surrender yourselves to Martian Communal Republic. We are definitely not thinly veiled allegory for a union of Soviets. Nah.
My God.